The 1st of October. Feel that crisp, clean autumn air. Just kidding. I live in a place where the 1st of October is just the beginning of 9 months straight of rain. Woo! Anwen, are you awake? Okay, you don't have to get up now, you just have to think about it. Of course you can, baby girl. Sleep all you want. You just have to think about getting up. You're thinking about it though, right? Oh, okay, well, that's good. Right. As well as being the 1st of October, it is also the first day of the Hocus Pocus Readathon. Yay! I have gotten my ass up early in order to read The Witches, Salem, 1692 by Stacey Schiff. It is actually remarkably boring currently, so I really hope it gets better. I've been downstairs already to get myself some coffee, and now I'm reading in my kid's room in order to slowly bug her awake. It's the best way. If you try to jump them out, too quickly out of the sack, they get angry, You've got to move them slowly into the world, or else they just rebel. This book is basically like a historical, factual account of the Salem witch trials, and it's based on other people's accounts, sort of contemporary accounts, but the author is saying there aren't a whole lot of really actually contemporary accounts. They sort of happen quite a lot after the fact, but still they happen sort of relatively around there. And it's sort of what they've written down or what they've reported to have said about things, like the people who are actually there. And the idea of it is really good, but the playthrough of it, I don't know, I hope it gets a whole lot better. It's just a little bit boring. I do love, a good factual book. I'm not a person who's, a novel person, and now I'm, trying to read a factual book and it's not working. Are you thinking about getting up? Are you thinking about getting up? You don't have to get up now, you just have to think about it. Are you thinking about it? Yeah. How about now? Still thinking about it? Okay. How about now? Right, so our transformation from sleeping people to functional day people is almost complete. Also, I'm pretty far in the book now. And they're on about sort of laying out the situation, the Puritans, who accused who, blah blah blah. But also they're sort of saying all of the dangers that affected the Puritans, all the ways you can die, and all of the weird and wonderful ways you can have a weird illness and nobody really understanding what it is. Also they're saying how bad the doctors are.
Why?
Well, basically because they weren't actual doctors. They were just sort of walking around telling people they were doctors. They didn't really know how to help people. They spent a lot of time just sort of saying they're cursed and trying to pass off their ailments as the devil's work, so they didn't have to do anything about it. So that sort of sets our scene. What do you think? So, we're watching Masha. I think my mom's neighbor back home said that this show is actually Russian propaganda. And I don't really see it, to be honest, but that's the way of propaganda, isn't it? That's how they get you. You don't know it's propaganda. Yeah, so maybe if I come home and I'm speaking in a weird Russian accent and I say really weird Russian stuff, I'm gonna take that from you and you can't have it back and there's nothing you can do about it. We'll know the truth. But until then, I think it's just a benign TV show, so I don't know what's up with that. I'm a pretty good way through this book now. I'm like somewhere in the middle of chapter 2, I think. I think the chapters are quite long, to be honest. And actually I'm finding that the footnotes are really interesting. So like it'll be like a bunch of like book about like really boring he said, she said type stuff, like, and then she did this, and then he did this, and then she did this, and then like a really interesting footnote down the bottom. This particular footnote is Harvard tuition was paid, used to be paid in wheat and malt and like agriculture. The occasional New England father sent his son to Cambridge with parsnips, butter, and regrettably for all, goat mutton to pay off his tuition. So that's made me think of loads of different kind of stuff, and that's gonna be super fun for me in work when I Google all that stuff later. So I do have the physical book of this because I prefer a physical book, to be honest. Like, I like to read it in the morning, probably gonna read it at lunch in a cafe somewhere while it rains on me. But I am aware as well that there's sort of a deadline on this, and it's quite a thicky book. Like, it looks thicker than it really is because there's loads of addendums and like stuff at the back that I'm not going to read. Like, I don't know where your sources came from, like, to be honest. I'm not an academic. I don't care. So that hacks off a good 100 pages. It's only about 400 pages, this book, but it's still like sort of long-ish for a read-a-thon.
Mom, she's so funny.
But anyway, I do have the audiobook for this as well in order to actually get through it on time. Like, I don't expect to finish this book by today, obviously. I think hopefully by the end of tomorrow or sometime the day after that, in order to sort of stay on track with like the readathon. I think I've said this in a vlog before, but does this bathroom not remind you of a Hogwarts bathroom? I feel like I'm weighing at Hogwarts. Okay, I'm on a coffee break and also just hanging out in the bathroom, so if anyone comes in, it's gonna be super weird. But I'm getting on in my book now. I've been listening to it all morning, and it's sort of getting better, but it's not really gripping me. Again, though, the footnotes are super interesting. So there's one about how literacy was like compulsory in the colony, you know, in like in Salem, basically. They had like an amazing literacy rate because everyone had to read to a basic level, like even young girls and stuff. It was like so they could read scripture, but still awesome. Also now they're sort of talking about Paris, like the main like clergyman who was like part of everything, and like had drawn him up as a total shit. Like he was like really selfish and like arrogant. He was like raised as a gentleman sort of, and kind of went to Harvard but dropped out, and now he just sort of like sees himself as this amazing guy. He's like unforgiving and like really harsh and strict and petty, and like all the other clergymen are like, yeah, he's a shit, and like everyone's like, oh yeah, all the other clergymen are 1,000 times better, and they like treat him differently, and he knows it, you know, they're like not nice to him. Okay, my bicycle is like making a weird rattling noise in like this region of the bicycle. I don't really know what is up with it. Like, basically, I did something stupid, and the bit that I use, like the cords I use to stick stuff to the pannier rack on the back, I left them dangling when I left, and I sort of pedaled away, and it got caught on the tire, and it like got stuck inside the spoke of the tire, like in the chain bar. There's like really nice lady at the law school, I don't even know who she is, she like helped me get it off. But then as I was going away, the chain part jumped the track, and then I had to turn it upside down in order to get it back on. Like, my bicycle is so old, it's literally as old as me. Like, it has seen the 80s as well, and I think it might just be old, but also I have done something to it. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I have come into town on my lunch in order to do some very October-related activities. I have to get some pumpkin pie mix from the like American/foreign import store because that's the only place they have it. I need to get some lunch. I think there's like a new Vietnamese like banh mi place, and I think they have vegan like tofu sandwiches. So Boom. That's the stuff. Whew. Okay, very possibly my favorite new place, this Vietnamese place. Look at this sandwich, it looks so good. It's like a tofu barbecue banh mi. What? And also, like, look what I'm sitting on. There's little pillows. Look at my view. Got a little beautiful little arcade in Cardiff where it is. I may come here literally every day, and you think I'm kidding. I'm not. Anyway, I'm reading my book. About to dip into the sandwich. I've been listening to the audiobook at work and also a little bit on lunch and down. And it's sort of getting better-ish. Like, it's not as boring as it was, but I'm still not totally gripped. Basically, a really good thing about this one is it's reminded me that I really want to read that novella, like tid-bits or whatever. Have you heard of that one? It's like, especially I could do it for Halloween, like one of the novellas that I read for Halloween. It's where she was like the only black slave or whatever, only like non-white person to be accused in the witch trials. Anyway, this book here is like saying that her accounts and everything of what the witches did to her, what the like devil made her do to like be a witch or whatever. It's like so amazing. Like it's like really wild. It's really like out there. She thinks of all these like new things, like loads of the narrative around like what the devil made the witches do or whatever. It's just from her own story. Obviously, she's like I guess an Indian or she's black or something like that, and so she's from somewhere else. She's not from New England, so she's probably got like some sort of like native stories in her background that like give her the ability to like have these wild stories, and she's just thinking up stuff like, yeah, and then they did this and this. She's not about these like evil men in black who like forced her to torture people, and like these lucid cats, like cats that can like talk and are like self-aware and stuff like that. Anyway, I love that. I really want to read that tid-bits like novella. She's like on about like what, like breaking down like the witches myth or like the witches legend, or like what people think of when they think of witches and what they would normally do or whatever. And she's sort of listing like, oh, in this country, in this country, in this country, they think that witches do this, and they know that witches do this in this country. And one of the things that they definitely know witches do at this time that anyone will tell you is that they steal penises. Which sounds painful and confusing. Like, I have so many questions. Like, does it just disappear? Like, or does someone come in and like actually take it? Does someone just wake up without it? I don't know. It's just so many questions. Oh my god, that sandwich was so heckin' good. Y'all, I'm in my favorite cupboard. It's the stationery cupboard. Look at these badass envelopes I found. They're like the old school cute ones. I'm gonna take one and send it to someone cool. Also, look at my shirt. What? Okay, I'm at my kid's school now. I'm gonna pick her up now in a minute. I just left work. But my book was on about, like, I'm pretty far into it now, and it's sort of getting better, I guess. But it was on about, like, how New England was, like, made for witchcraft. Like, the idea of witchcraft and everything, like, a howling wilderness, and, like, Indians, and, like, raging Frenchmen, and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're just, like, living a witchy Halloween movie. I really like that. Also, they were on about, like, what the devil looks like according to, like, the people in the colony or whatever, and, like, all of the different, like, descriptions of the devil. And one was, like, no taller than a walking stick with a little black hat. Like, that doesn't sound, like, particularly frightening, does it? It sounds like if you just squish him or, like push him around, like, what's so scary about that? Like, I much prefer, like, Stephen King's, like, flag or whatever. Like, his devil's, like, really tall and, like, imposing, but, like, what can you say? Like, If you're afraid of it, you're afraid of it. Like, I'm terrified of spiders. They're tiny. And I suppose if one was, like, the size of a walking stick and wearing a hat, I'd be hella scared. So, you know, what am I even talking about? Welcome to October!
It's raining now.
It is raining now. But we stopped at the pub.
Yesterday it was sunny.
Okay, we stopped at the pub. Do we have good stuff? No? Yeah, you're eating it. You're eating my food.
Because I like your food.
No matter where I go or what time I go, I always end up waiting for my kid or my husband to finish pooing. I feel like this will be my cross to bear in life. I'm a pretty solid way through the book now. I'm actually doing pretty good with like my reading goal for today. Like I was hoping to get close to halfway so that it wouldn't take me more than 3 days to read it. And I think even though I have Welsh class today, I'll be able to get home and read to my goal. I'm trying to figure out why it is that I don't love this book as much as I thought I would. And I think like it's a problem of too many main characters, or like basically not one or two or three sort of main characters. You don't delve into their lives as much. You don't sort of get a feeling for like how they were feeling or what they were thinking or blah blah blah. Like I know it's historical and not a novel, but I still like appreciate that sort of thing even in like a historical account of something. Also it's quite a lot of like just bald, he said, she said, this, blah, blah, blah. And while some of it's quite interesting, like especially the footnotes and stuff about the time and sort of what happened, it's not really enough for me. I think I need like more human interest. It's a bit sort of removed from everything, a bit removed from feelings and like focus on characters' lives and stuff. So, I think that's the main problem. Right, so I have to go to my Welsh class soon, which will stop the reading. But I think after I come back I'll be able to read quite a lot before I go to sleep. And I think that I'm on track to get to very nearly the middle of the book. I'm in the middle of chapter 5, I believe, currently. What have you got?
Cookie. Rainbow chocolate.
But anyway, like even in like the meat of the book, like the part of the book that's not the footnotes, I'm really only retaining like fun and interesting facts anyway, like how all of the names and like the accounts of the history and everything, like Anne Putnam and everything like that, like all of their names are spelled about 8,000 different ways. like Hawthorne is spelled like 6 different ways in different accounts or whatever. Also how like 1/3 of all of the accusations came from like one guy. But like a really interesting like footnote one that I found on this page now before I have to go, and like I really do need to go like right now. I need to leave for Welsh class like 5 minutes ago. It says, the Indians did childhood differently. Indian mothers bore fewer children, doled out liberties rather than punishments, and wept freely over the children they lost. The kids had leisure time. That pampering was not lost on the Puritans. Let not English parents be as indulgent and negligent as they report the Indians are, warned Mather, defensive on the subject. A fair number of Indian captives elected to remain. One boy returned only when bound, arms and legs. He escaped soon afterward to rejoin his Indian family. Ugh, love a tidbit, me. I really liked my Welsh class tonight because there was a new lady, new word, golly, to lose yourself. So, golly mewn llyfrau, to lose yourself in books. Are you thinking about getting up? You don't have to get up right now, you just have to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I've been reading this morning and also a lot last night, and now I'm definitely more than half of the way through. But hilariously, I hit my first set of like the photo pages. Okay, so this guy is that like Dick Paris guy that was on about yesterday, who's like petty and thinks he's a gentleman when really he's just a dropout and he's just horrible and unforgiving and no one likes him. He just looks like a dickbag. Ugh. Okay, now this one over here. Look, like the one in the bottom right hand, that's an actual bottle of the actual pins that were like confiscated at the proceedings. Like all of the pins that the devil or the witches or whatever were supposedly putting in the victims. They still have it. That's crazy. The one on the top left, the restored nurse homestead. Holy shit. I want to go there quite badly now. I didn't know that like a whole building still existed. Her actual house. It looks crazy. And like this is the restored meeting house. So like it was falling apart and they restored it in 1982. And now it still exists, like the actual place where all of these trials and craziness took place. I'm shook. Okay, I kind of believe, so I actually lived in Massachusetts when I was a kid, and I've been to Salem, but like the actual town of Salem now is only, I think, 1/2 of what used to be Salem. So at some point in the past, like between the witch trials and now, they divided Salem into 2 pieces. So the Salem that's Salem now is the half where there were no witch trials and nothing happened. The other half is now called Danvers, and that's the part where all the stuff happened. So Salem just laps up all the tourist crap. Like I remember having a photo taken where my head was in like one of those circle things where the painting is a witch, you know, like, so it's like a picture, like a painting of a witch with like your head in it, you know, and like I remember taking a picture like really cheesy of my like hands in the stocks, you know, like Salem was just eating that shit up. They're like, come little tourists. But Danvers apparently is really quiet. They don't want anyone to know that they're actually the site of the witch trials, and like they have apparently like really like somber feelings about it. They're like, it's not to be joked about. It was horrendous. Like people murdered absolutely loads of people just by acting crazy, and like those were our people. Like they were a lot of times like our ancestors who actually did it, and we're ashamed of that, and like we don't want to laugh about it. It's not funny, so they don't like you know, advertise that they're the ones that have all that history. And there's like a really quiet memorial apparently that the actual villagers made after they realized that they were going cray. They were just like, we apologize for all of this, and they made like a little memorial. But anyway, I'm super annoyed now that I never actually went to Danvers. Like I blame my parents because I was like youngish when I went and I wouldn't have known. But like, come on. The actual meeting house. Who doesn't want to see that? Oh, I feel like I've missed out. So my book is getting like sort of good. It's getting better. Like the hearings and everything is actually started, like the actual trial. So that's pretty interesting. Like they were saying how hangings in New England used to go really badly. Like no one really knew how to hang someone. Like hangmen, like as a profession, was like really rare a profession in New England. So it was always just like some random person, like probably a clergyman or something, doing the hanging, and they didn't really know how to do it. So like one woman supposedly like hung for ages and ages, and then just asked everyone what was next. Like, well, what are you going to do about this now? Like, I'm obviously not dead, you know. Like another man was cut down before he was dead. So they cut him down, and then he was like, bro! So they had to like kill him with an axe or something really quick. Like, no! But like, yeah, just not even a rare thing or a weird thing. Like people did just used to hang for like an hour before dying, like making really horrible noises. Ugh. They're on about like the trial itself, and they've got these like actual lawyers and like civil servants down to actually judge the thing. So not just like the villagers or like the clergymen or whatever, which I never knew. I didn't know that they had actual like professional law people down to do the trial. But one of the people, Rebecca Nurse, the trial actually went like pretty well. Like people played the roles they were supposed to play. Some people were for her being guilty and other people were against it, and they like all presented their sides, you know. the husband of Rebecca Nurse like fought tirelessly for her, like how could she have been doing that when she was doing this, blah blah, and providing evidence and stuff. And in the end, they did find her not guilty, the jury. But then, like, after all that, loads of, like, the clergy or whatever were like, how can this be? She's obviously guilty, blah, blah. And they, like, basically intimidated the jurors to go back and decide again to make her guilty. And in the end, she was hung as a guilty party. Also, they're on about, like, witches' marks. Like, things like, so when the women were in prison, or the witches or whatever were in prison, they did like a strip search of them and checked like them over, looking for witches' marks, and like what exactly constituted a witch's mark was like a bit, you know, not very clear.
I got a big nose.
Oh, Baba, what are you doing?
I'm not picking my nose.
Oh, well, good. Ugh.
I'm touching my skin.
Oh, okay. But anyway, the one of the witches' marks that they found on 3 of the witches was an excrescence of skin or something, like an extra bit of skin between the pudendum and the anus. What, Baba?
I watch a witch. I watch a witch TV.
You have a TV show with a witch on it. Which one is that?
Esco. They are all nice witches.
Oh, that's nice. It's just a fun cartoon, is it? Oh, well, at least somebody's having fun in the day. Okay, right, so the book was on about, in one of Nathaniel Hawthorne's books, he used one of the purported witch's last lines before she was murdered. Something about blood or whatever, like basically saying I'm innocent and you're gonna pay. And I was like, oh yeah, Nathaniel Hawthorne, he was from Massachusetts, and his name is Hawthorne. How weird. And yeah, all of the people in like Salem or whatever, like even now with those names, like Putnam, Hawthorne, like all these like first names, they're all related to each other. Like I was like, oh, is Nathaniel Hawthorne a descendant of like the Hawthorne judge in the trials? Yeah, this is great-great-grandfather. Also, they were on about like how witches ride brooms, and like in like villagers' accounts or whatever. And sometimes they ride, you know, 6, 7, 8 to a broom. You know, and now I've got so many questions like, do they run a public service? You know, is there like one witch whose job it is to go around collecting all the other ones so that they can all go off together? Is this person paid a fee? You know, is it like a bus driver? Is it a calling? You know, are there like Uber brooms, you know, where you can summon it whenever you need to from wherever you are?
Hi, Hank Hank. Did you miss me? Yes, yes, big boy missed me. Oh, yes. Okay, Hanky, you want to go outside? You want to go outside? Big boy, go outside. Oh, yes. Hank can go outside. Oh, yeah. Oh, get those little squirrels. You go, monkey. See, what do you call this? No greeting. No meet me at the door for a hello. Am I disturbing your nap? Go outside. You're so lazy.
Oh my god, how adorable is this? Like, all passport photos on the planet look horrendous, and still my kid managed to look adorable in hers. Ugh, disgusting. Yes! Oh my god. Okay. So, ones I ordered are The Witches of Lichford, and also The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I got this one because I couldn't find it like anywhere in a store or anything. I really want to read it for like Halloween, like a Halloween novella. And this one I just thought, oh, why not? It's cheap. And I also want to read that one. Right, we are cooking on gas now. I am a good chunk through this book. I reckon I'm going to be able to finish it today, which is the optimistic side of the goal that I laid for myself originally. I do have to go tonight to meet some friends for coffee. So that will take a chunk out of reading, but it's nowhere near as long as my Welsh class yesterday, so boom, I reckon I'm gonna nail it. Currently, we're now in the phase where everyone has shaken themselves out of their hysteria and woken up like a bad dream, like, holy crap, we just killed loads of innocent people. And I have passed my second round of photo pages. Okay, look at these sexy gentlemen, will you? So these are the guys basically running the show, like the governor and the judge and everybody. Like, I think these guys look like they're gonna have like a really solid understanding of why a woman would do a thing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think they're gonna really understand the difference between witchcraft and just sort of like normal female stuff. What do you reckon? Especially, so this guy up here. He looks like his wife is real happy, this one. I'm loving this guy right here, or this witch on the broom here. Says, women did not elsewhere load broomsticks with their children. So, like, look, she's just piled all her kids on there. Like, they're just doing a school run. Calm down. You know, a woman does what she can. She's got to do the house. She's got to go to work. She's got to get her kids to school. She's got to make sure they have an empty paper towel roll for their homework project. Like, stop giving people shit for daily stuff. Also, at least she took her kids with her, okay? If she was a real witch, she would have just, like, encaged them in the house, innit? Like, set some sort of dog guardian on them. Like, she's just doing family time. They're on an outing. What's healthier than that? But basically, she's doing quite a lot of talking about, like, when there was a minister, he was, like, well-liked, or sort of, and, he was sentenced to hang for being a witch, and that was sort of, like, where it was starting to turn with people. They're like, but he's a minister, like, is he really a witch? Should we really kill him? He's a minister. And then, like, sort of the sight of, like, him walking somberly up the thing to, you know, the hanging rope, and, apparently the speech he gave, like, his last words were, like, really eloquent and beautiful, and a prayer, and made everyone weepy, and, like, made them sort of start to, like, you know, shake out of this fog, like, what are we doing? You know? And then, like, even after they stopped, like, hanging people or whatever, like, the governor sort of had a heavy hand in stopping it all. Phipps, he was like, no, stop doing this, it's crazy. But even after they stopped hanging people, there's still loads of people in prison. Like, they couldn't pay their prison fees or whatever, so they weren't allowed to go. And the very last one who was stuck in there was Tituba, who I didn't actually know. She wasn't hanged. She wasn't put to death for being a witch. She was just imprisoned. And she stayed in there until a new owner basically bought her by paying her prison fees. And I think I said earlier that she was like a black slave from Barbados. But apparently, loads of people said that she was black at the time, but they've like debunked that now. They're like, no, she was definitely like some sort of like native, like Indian or whatever. She was just from Barbados, which explains why all of her tales were so amazing. Like, all of these really staid, super white people are like getting like a flavor of Barbados. They're like, oh, this is so titillating. She also mentioned, so as these people left prison, like, people paid bail and they paid their prison fees, and like everyone just sort of shook awake out of this thing. And they just sort of continued to like live about in their community, like how hard it was to absorb them back into life. So like, you're just living across the street from a guy who basically tried to have you killed. Like, can I borrow some sugar? Yeah. Like, one guy just like left the church. He went looking like over the hill and dale for ages looking for an Anglican church. He's like, fuck this. I'm going back to that other church we said we'd never go back to when we left England for good.
Okay, we're in town to have coffee with Gemma and Lizzie and Karis, and have a brownie and a soya latte. Yeah? But anyway, we finished the witches! Yay! Actually, Shushi. Actually, in the end, I thought it was okay. So, from the trial onward, it started to get pretty good. So, I think probably the first half or so, not the best. It was a bit boring. But after the trial started, and after they started talking about what happened in the trial and then what happened after the trial, I was in, and it started to get pretty good, actually. There were loads of, like, interesting facts in it. I particularly liked the parts, really near the end where they're on about how each person sort of came to terms with their behavior and how they played a role in it, and sort of each sort of making amends and like confessing their part.
Stop it!
like Sewell was quite a big part in it, and he did like quite a heartfelt sort of speech to everyone, sort of in church, saying, you know, I pray to God that he only punishes me for this and not my parishioners, and blah blah blah. And that was after like his 7th child died, and he was like, oh, it's obviously because I have like sinned or whatever. Another guy, in his will, he was really generous in his will to sort of make up for the sins in life and like the part he played. And there's apparently a fund for people, like students at Harvard, that still exists today. It was set up in 1701 with his will, and it still exists. And Anne Putnam like confessed that she had like made up whatever it was. I like a thing that the author was saying about like a lot of what each person said they saw from the witches and like experienced from the witches was basically a reflection of what their own worst fears were. Like someone who feared Indians saw like all these Indian atrocities when the witches messed with them, you know, and like someone who feared like family troubles like ended up, oh, I've seen all these horrible things happen to my family or whatever. And it was obviously in their own minds that these things were happening. So in the very end, the last witches were pardoned in 2001 on Halloween. Massachusetts pardoned finally the last ones. Anyway, that's the end of this one, and I think I really liked it. I didn't like it at first, obviously. I was quite bored, but as it sort of went on, I started to like it more and more. We're gonna go have some coffee and then do a bit of shopping and then go home, and I guess I'll start Milkman, which is the next one that I have. Like, this was the prompt for a witchy main character, and now the next I'm gonna read is the one that's like a female main like protagonist or something. So yeah, winning. Okay, until next time, bye.